stories that will make you believe in time travel. 1950s slip. One Saturday afternoon in July of 1996, Frank and his wife Carol were visiting Bold Street in Liverpool, UK to do some shopping. The pair decided to split up and Frank wanted to go to Dylan's bookshop. As she walked up the incline near the Lyceum post office building that led into Bold Street, Frank suddenly noticed he had entered a strange oasis of quietness. Suddenly, a small box van that looked like something out of the 1950s spread across his path honking its horn. As it narrowly missed him, Frank noticed the name and the van's side Kaplan's when he looked down. Frank saw that he was unexpectedly standing in the road. Frank crossed the road and saw that Dylan's bookshop now had grips over its entrance, more confused. When he looked in the shop window, there were no books but women's handbags and shoes. Looking around, Frank realized people were dressed in clothes that appeared to be from the 1940s. Suddenly, he spotted a young girl in her early 20s dressed in modern-day clothing, and the handbags she was carrying had a popular brand name on it, which reassured him that maybe he was still in 1996. He was a paradox, but he was relieved, and he followed the girl in the cribs. As the pair went inside, Frank watched in amazement as the interior of the building completely changed in a flash to that of Dylan's bookshop of 1996. 1800s time slip. A woman and a 5-year-old daughter were driving at night in Dundee, Michigan, and there were no people around anywhere, when all of a sudden all of her surroundings changed and it was light and people were now dressed in clothing from the 1800s. She slammed on the brakes as a lady pushing an old baby carriage was crossing the road, right in front of her. She thought she was going crazy. She said that this only happened for a few seconds. Well, she was later asked by a friend, what was the reaction of the people from the 1800s? Did anyone look at you or react? She said that, I was looking around and it happened so fast. I remember looking at the people on the street, but I don't remember making eye contact with any of them. I do remember the woman pushing the baby carriage and she just stopped and I'm slamming the brakes so I didn't hit them. She looked frozen in shock, the exact same way I looked and felt, and as I slammed on my brakes, I heard the tires screech and my eyes never left her. After I jerked forward and stopped, everything went back and it was night again. A few years later, when her daughter was 13, she brought up the incident with her daughter, who said, I heard you talking and yelling but I couldn't see you. Parallel self. A woman believes she experienced a time slip in 1962 when she was 12 years old. She said, my mother sent me out into our green and grassy backyard in Maryland to pick up the sticks and twigs that had fallen for my very large poplar tree. I had picked up an armload of sticks and bent down to pick up another one, but when I stood back I was in another place. It looked rather barren and dry and I could see hills in the distance. I had a sense that my people were there and it was my job to collect firewood. Which is why I was out alone. The wood also seemed more like driftwood and very dry. I never looked behind me, so I don't know if I could have been new water or any wooded area. I could see my hair blowing in the breeze and it was very long and wild. I looked down and I was wearing fur that went over one shoulder and went down to my thighs. I was barefoot. I knew almost the same person, but I was somehow in a different place and time had only lasted a few seconds and then I was back in my backyard in Maryland. I've thought about this for the last 50 years and I believe that I was doing exactly the same thing at exactly the same time, that I was doing in a parallel universal dimension and that somehow triggered the switch. I often wondered what the me from the other place thought when they appeared in my backyard in 1962. Did they have any understanding of what happened given the limited experience in their life at that time? Time Travel Authority. In 2013, a YouTube channel known as the Time Authority uploaded an interview with somebody who claimed to be a time traveler from the 30th century. The questions were apparently vetted by the time traveler himself so that nothing would drastically change in present day. He claims that he traveled to 2013 in a vehicle, but that time travel is possible and available in many forms in the future. He also states that money will soon be non-existent and that many different societies are soon going to collapse due to a number of impending catastrophes. The interviewer seems pretty unimpressed by the time traveler's answers, but he does answer each question quite rationally, which makes the video interesting to watch. He did make some predictions that are supposed to happen soon. Whether he was telling the truth or not is yet to be proven.